you ever feel stuck, like you're living your life on autopilot? Are you ready to shift into high gear and reach the success you so richly deserve? Welcome to the Play Big Movement podcast. I am your host, Sharon Lecter, entrepreneur, business strategist, and best-selling author. Playing big is not about settling for good enough or being comfortable. It is about reaching your highest potential and achieving your greatest success. Join me in my Play Big movement as I interview top experts in business, money, and entrepreneurship, all ready to serve you and to help you play big, be number one in your field, live your legacy, and create maximum impact. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this segment of the Play Big Movement podcast. I'm Sharon Lecter, your host, and I get to introduce you to somebody new today, somebody new for me as well, a new friend. We were introduced by Pamela Goodwin, and I'm just delighted to read her story. I've read up on her and an incredible background of multi-entrepreneurial endeavors and truly a huge heart to help other people as well. So, Kimmy Powell, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor, truly.
Well, I've got your bio, but I'm going to just cover a couple of the highlights because I want to just, talk to you from a woman-to-woman perspective. So you're a mentor, author, speaker, angel investor, serial entrepreneur, and you also are dedicated to helping other people, being on advisory board for the college and doing all kinds of things. So I think it's really important because I love to highlight women who are serial entrepreneurs. I talk about successful businesses solve a problem or serve a need, and you've certainly done that throughout your career, both in businesses you own with your husband as well as the spas you're involved in now. But I always like to start with you telling us a little bit about little Kimmy. How did you get started? I know you were from Ohio, but tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so little Kimmy is sort of like big Kimmy in a way. I have always been sort of an outgoing social being. I'm curious. I'm curious about everything. I'm curious about people. I'm curious about business, life. And little Kimmy loved to just go out and have some fun. My earliest memories of like significant changes in my life really occurred around 7th grade when I had a couple of teachers who impacted my future greatly. One being a cheerleading advisor who was my computer science teacher, and one being my math teacher who sort of said, you could do a little better. I was kind of slacking off and being a little too social. talks too much. I was the talks too much girl, as you can imagine. And so both of those teachers dramatically impacted me in the 7th grade because I was a cheerleader and I had a female cheerleading advisor, but she also brought computer science to our school, which was pretty revolutionary back in 1980. I guess it was 82. I graduated from high school in 87. So at the same time, I was slacking off on my homework and math, and my math teacher, who was a male baseball teacher who I actually didn't really much care for, he said, if you tried a little, you could actually do better. And from the minute he said that, I never got less than an A in math ever again until college. And I went on to be a math computer science major. And so when I say they had a profound impact in my life, they really did. I don't really know where I would have gone because I tend to be very left and right brained. I wrote a lot of poetry growing up, wanted to be a lyricist. So, I don't know which way I would have gone, to be totally honest, but I'm very grateful. So that sort of informed, and I always at that point wanted to be a school teacher. I thought I'd always be a math teacher. That was my passion. I really, really wanted to be a math teacher. My dad had his own construction company. I thought about taking over his construction company and becoming an engineer. All those sort of things went through my mind, but ultimately settled on computer science in college.
And you were open up to the possibility. Our stories are a little similar. I'm quite a bit older than you are, but I had the same thing. I thought I was focused on math. I loved math. I wanted to be a math teacher. And my 8th grade English teacher told me, "You're going to be a famous writer someday." And I thought she was crazy. And it was my sorority house mother in college who said, "You're going to be a speaker on stage." I see it now. And so it was kind of one of those things where they plant a seed in what's possible. And when you let that seed grow, and here we are. So I think that's fantastic.
Yes,
and
that's great.
You have a long-term marriage, I see. So I always like to highlight that. Talk a little bit about your husband.
Yeah, my husband Keith. I met Keith when I was just shy of 16 in Beaufort, South Carolina on spring break with my best friend Anne, and she had known Keith. And so I met him, and I knew the minute I met him I was going to marry him. And he did not think that. Let me be clear. He was a fireman and a paramedic, and little different than the guys I was, dating or attracted to back in my little hometown in Dayton, Ohio. But I came back and told my mom that I think I just met my husband, and my mom said, "You are not marrying a fireman from Beaufort, South Carolina." But being the stubborn third born child that I am, I
I was going to say
just
that sounded like a challenge.
No, I did. I really did. It was interesting. My husband likes to say it's because he was a Southern gentleman, and that was so foreign to anybody from Dayton, Ohio, to have someone like, "Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am," and open up the door. But it probably is a little bit of that. But he was just unlike anybody I'd ever met. True entrepreneur because he had to be to survive, and also just this optimism. Or there was something about the energy around him that made me feel like anything that was possible. And I was also where you're always wondering, FOMO, like fear of missing out, or like there's something else happening more. Except with him, I never felt that way. I felt like this was where we were always going to make something exciting happen.
Well, I love that. I have been the last couple of years, people thought I was crazy that I actually knew what FOMO meant. And I said, it's really not FOMO, fear of missing out. We need to adopt JOMO, joy of
Yeah.
missing out.
Yes. Yes.
And,
Yes.
and create boundaries and decide what you want and not be swayed by other people's opinions. So it's something
So
that I think is
true.
really true. And I love that because I saw in the information of an article that was written about you, talked about that you've created certain boundaries. You like your morning time, so do I. So there's a lot of similarities here. But I think one of the biggest ones when you talk about the people in your life who believed in you, and
Yeah.
that really allows you to believe in yourself. And I think we want women to find that own power within themselves, but it really helps when you have people that tell you can do anything you want if you just work hard enough.
So true. I mean,
Like your math teacher or my
yes.
dad said, you can do anything you want at a time where there were no women in business. I was the only woman in my accounting classes, but I
Wow.
just knew I had to work harder. So I just really applaud you. And I think you are a great example for the people around you. And you've written a book. So tell me a little bit about the Passion and Purpose Project, the 7-step future funnel. Share a little bit about
Yes. So this sort of goes to, when I moved to Charleston in 2014, I moved away from the construction, the day-to-day of the construction real estate company that my husband and I have. And then I moved into hospitality and decided to open a Woodhouse Day Spa in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, outside of Charleston. I was a guest. I was a spa goer. I don't know what I was thinking. But again, my husband's like, yeah, you could totally do that. And embarked on, too long for this podcast, but a roller coaster ride that I don't even know honestly how I survived, but I did, and ended up in this business. And so over the years, the most unlikely of things happened where I had someone say, "You should actually be in your own ads for your spa," and I was like, "I don't want it. I don't even like to get my picture taken." And then, you should be the face of the spa, and I was like, "That seems weird to me." So all these little weird things happen, and I took their advice because I was desperate to try to not go broke, and figured that's free. I can be me for free, so that seemed like a good thing to go do. So I accidentally became a little bit of this storyline where it's like, how did she start over at 45? How did she reinvent her? Like, people are really curious about this. And I sort of leaned into it because I'm always happy to talk to people. I shocked that they wanted to hear anything I had to say, to be totally honest. But now I've embraced it, much more fully and understand. And so I wrote the book because I do get asked the question a lot. And I can see that there are a lot of women out there, and rightfully so, trying to figure out, I know something's burning inside me. I just don't know how to get it out of me. And that's how I always felt. Like, I know I'm meant for something more, but I just didn't know where to start. And so I created it. It's sort of algorithmic. It's a proprietary future funnel, which basically takes you through what you don't want to do, what you do want to do, what you're naturally gifted at, your little Kimmy, your inner child, as I call it, and then what is your reality? Do you have a winning team? and things like that. So it basically, do you have a plan, and how can you get started? So it is called a project because it's meant to be done as a project. Um, and so I just try to help people. It's a simple book. There's no Pulitzer Prize winning complicated stuff in here, but I just try to speak from the heart and try to help people in any way I can, to because I love to see people win, and I love to see people following their passions. It just brings me a lot of joy.
Well, one of the things that I teach with almost every interview and every speech I give is the power of association. So you
Mhm.
talked about the winning team being a big piece of that. And I find that a lot of women try to do everything on their own and they don't realize the power of association and the power of having people on your team who are strong where you are weak. So talk a little bit about the winning team concept that you have.
Yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. And I'll take it a little further in the sense that, my minor was in philosophy, crazy enough. So, as I said, I have this left and right brain. And a lot of the early computer scientists were philosophers. They were trying to figure out, why are we here, existential type things. But to answer your question, it it is something that's always fascinated me, raising your vibration and attracting people into your sphere that resonate with you and help you lift them, they lift you, like a rising tide, rises all boats, right? um and so I really believe at the cellular level, as deep as I can go, that having positive energy and connecting with others is critical to manifesting and just creating the life that you were meant to live. And so not only having a team of people that are there to support you to win and support you, your dream or your vision, or even just to help you find your vision, but also keeping away from those who detract or pull you down from that, constant, vibrational raising.
Yeah, I talk to women all the time about a cone of protection. I have them actually
Yes,
physically go like this, because we tend to be more empathetic. And so we walk into a room with negative people and we feel our own energy go down. And
so
you have
true.
to learn how to protect yourself and set those boundaries, that cone of protection. And eventually, if you can learn to do that, then you'll pull them up. They'll see, the vibration that you're giving them.
So hard. I mean,
Yeah.
this is what the great mastery of my life is trying to figure out. And especially when people make, like, I read an email and, a business person or somebody is just really doing me wrong, I'm like, it's not inside of you, it's outside of you. But boy, it is hard to train the brain. The mind is so hard.
Well, I tell people all the time, high emotion, low intelligence. And so, and we tend to be emotional beings. And so it's always good to just take a step away and give yourself a little breather to figure out how you want to respond to a situation like that. So
Yes.
yeah, I really love that. So tell us, you got the book out, you've got, I believe you just opened a new spa in Savannah. I think I saw
Number
something about
4.
that. And so you've
Yeah.
got 4 spas, I think. And so what's the future for Kimmy? What are you working on?
Well, for spas has been a little bit of challenge. I spent the last 9 years really constantly reinvesting, not taking a paycheck, reinvesting. And, for your listeners, that's a big thing for me is, people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10. Because if you had told me 10 years ago I was going to be successful at one spa, I would have thought you were crazy. So I surely wouldn't have believed, 9 years later, I'd be opening my fourth spa. But I'm now really fascinated on how to scale a business and how to make them profitable so that I can retire one day and also leave this to others. Um, so that's something I'm very focused on, is learning how to be a better leader and a stronger leader and a more successful business person with business metrics, processes, things like that. And one of the reasons I was super excited to meet you is I have a couple other books I would like to write, and I think they're really good ideas, but I'm a little looking needing a winning team myself. And I sort of self-published or used an online publishing company, a friend of mine, because I wanted to learn. And like anything I do, I just try to learn first. But now I'd like to get a little more serious and learn how to write in a way that maybe I could attract a literary agent or publisher. So I have some books and I have some ideas. So that's something that's on my vision board. Um, I just became a grandma. I saw your sign. I just had my first grandchild. So that's always been really important to me, is to be in a place where I can be there for my kids and the next generation as well. So that's an important thing for me to start working towards. So really on my next list is to continue to write and hopefully share and help others as I go along this journey and be vulnerable and authentic along the way, so people feel really comfortable asking questions and maybe making their own start.
I love that. I love that. Well, a little bit of self-promotion. You may want to read Exit Rich, which is right here, one of my most recent books. And it's about taking your successful business, making it scalable and saleable. So,
Oh, good. I'm starting that tomorrow.
yeah. So it may answer a few of the questions you have on doing that. But yes,
I love it.
absolutely applaud you. And obviously, you have a lot more to share. And as we wrap up this main podcast, you're going to hang out with me for a little bit longer. We're going to do a second recording for the private Facebook group. So for all of you watching and listening, make sure you've been taking notes, rewind and re-listen to Kimmy. But also, if you're not part of the Facebook group, it's free to join. It's people that have come together saying they want to be number one in their field, live their legacy, which is created every single day with every heart you touch, and creating maximum impact. So we go a little more personal on that. We talk about, recovering from a setback. We talk about daily habits, and we do a little bit more personal with people. So please go ahead and join that Facebook group if you want to hear the rest of the story. But Kimmy, as we come to a close, how can people find you?
Best way to find me is kimmykpowell.com. But other than that, I'm on social media as Kimmy K Powell and LinkedIn and TikTok. You can find me. I'm very easy to find.
So there's a woman out there right now that probably needs to read your book, but she's in her 40s, 50s, 60s. There's a big issue for me as well, women that they feel like they're too old to start over. And I say, you're never too old. So
Never.
share a little bit of your motivational thoughts for somebody that is just not knowing where to go.
Well, some of the things that always motivate me is meeting other people that are successful. Like I watch Martha Stewart, right? Like, I mean, here she is starting a wine label with Snoop Dogg and opening a restaurant in Vegas. I'm like, yes, go. I have an 82-year-old mother, and she'll, say like, oh, I don't know, my life's. I'm like, hey, change is good. Change is good, and change is necessary, and it's exhilarating. And I really try to talk to people about that. Like, change is good. If you haven't changed in a while, it's time. So my advice to people is there's always time to pivot and change, and everybody can do it at their own speed. But even if it's something as simple as living somewhere else, riding a new bike, I don't know. It's good for people to change. I've learned it and lived it myself, and it's hard, but it's always worth it to try something new. It really is.
I love that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thanks for being with us. And one of the things that I always tell people is I always ask them, when was the last time you did something for the first time?
Yeah, I love that song.
Yeah, we live in a world where we stay in our comfort zone. And so I turned 70 in January. So my runway is a little shorter than it was for a lot of people. But I think I still challenge myself to do things I've never done before, because that's
inspirational to me as I approach 55 and feel like, my runway's narrowing, but I never think it is. And then I meet someone like you, or I see somebody, I'm like, all right, I can do this. Iris Apfel can become an icon at 100. Why can't I keep going?
Yeah, we have a choice. Do we allow our curiosity and creativity to go silent, or do we keep it alive and vibrant? Because that's what keeps us young. Young is up here, right? So
I 100% agree.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And hang in there with me for a moment. And for all of you watching and listening, thank you for being part of this segment of the Play Big Movement podcast. And until next time, you're fabulous.
Thank you for listening to this segment of the Play Big Movement podcast. Please subscribe to iTunes and leave us a review, as well as join us in other areas of social media, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Sharon Lechter, and for Facebook, author Sharon Lechter. Thank you so much and have a fabulous day.